Dr. Cheng, last December, a group of forest policy experts sent our committee a letter outlining the forest management and wildfire challenges in the West. They noted that higher temperatures, more severe drought, and longer fire seasons, all driven by climate change, pose a threat to community safety, public health, and our watersheds. I think you described these as compounding disturbances in your testimony. The group suggests investing $40 to $60 billion over the next decade to accelerate action and make our forests more resilient. In April, I introduced a bill with Senator Wyden, the Outdoor Restoration Partnership Act, that provides a framework to make this type of investment in forest health. If we can target resources to high priority areas and partner with states, tribes, municipalities, and landowners, we could build climate resilience and create millions of jobs in the process. Dr. Cheng, given your experience at the local level and working across boundaries, what should this committee keep in mind when considering a major investment in forest restoration? For example, what infrastructure exists to support forest restoration and wildfire mitigation in the West? What are some of the gaps and what are some of the likely challenges?
Madam Chair, Senator Bennet, thank you for that question. I'll first preface my comments saying that this is the cost of these fires in particular, but also just the loss of forests as a result of a variety of mortality events these are billion-dollar problems, and how we've addressed them, at least in the West and federal forest lands, is almost like nickel and diming it, and we've really lacked that upfront investment for that front end collaborative work to really build the social capacity, the social acceptance, the science basis for where we need to do that work at the scale we need to do it. And so a lot of that, I would definitely want to see that investment provided to especially local community-based organizations that are really at the forefront of convening and coordinating a lot of the multi-stakeholder collaboratives that we are seeing. They are really operating on a shoestring, but they are really bearing the brunt of this issue and trying to create that pipeline to work at the scale. The second is that we are not only facing a backlog of reforestation, but also facing a backlog in terms of prescribed fire as a important tool to really mitigate those large catastrophic fires. And as my colleague, Dr. Courtney Schultz at Colorado State University has provided research as well as testimony to Congress, is that one of the biggest gaps and biggest bottlenecks for scaling up the prescribed fire programs that we really need is simply a lack of horsepower, the lack of human resources and the people with the training and qualifications, and basically a prescribed fire workforce. And I think that would be able to complement a lot of the other workforces that we also need to stand up, the tree planting workforce that State Forester Fox had mentioned. The last point is that we, especially here in the Intermountain West, where we really don't have very great forest products markets, the kind of industry and operations that we have might not necessarily be at the scale of the work or be able to accommodate the kind of materials that can provide that economic incentive back to forest land management. So really standing up the kinds of infrastructure and the kind of operations that need to work at the scale in the places that need to occur can also need a good lift. We have sawmills that are kind of scattered. They're few and far between, and the distances for hauling material is a huge barrier. And so to be able to have better distributed forest wood utilization industries and operators would be a great benefit.
Thank you, Dr. Cheng. I want to just leave my colleagues with this thought, because, as I said, Secretary Vilsack was out. $60 billion sounds like a lot of money, and I know that it does. we're spending that money anyway. We're just spending it fighting fires.
Right.
It costs us for every single acre, and we heard this the other day out there from the Forest Service, every acre that we treat costs $1,500 to treat. Every acre that we deal with in a forest fire costs us $50,000. So we are profoundly wasting the American people's money, and we're not, and by doing it, we're not creating any of the jobs that Dr. Cheng just talked about. We could create a bunch of jobs on the front end that would be sustaining and useful to the economy, I think. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I could not agree with you more. I mean, those numbers, just the numbers alone say it. And that doesn't count the devastation or what's happening to people in terms of the forest fires and
Not
so
to
on.
mention what both of you guys talked about, which is the lack of sequestration of carbon. I mean, this is
Right.
all of that CO2 is going up into the atmosphere.
Right, right.
So-
So, well, this is why we're doing the hearing. This is why we are glad you are chair of the subcommittee and look forward to working with you on this. So.